This video is going to show how to create the triple layer hose load found on the crosslays of both squads, crosslay 1 and 2, as well as the speedlays on engine 1 and engine 3. Two important points to make. Triple layer load is as what it sounds. It's going to be loaded up in a manner where it's in 3 sections laying on top of itself. When hooking it up to the squad, make sure it's connected inside there first and hanging out single until it reaches down here, which is where you want to start the triple. This ensures it's outside of the truck when it's pulled out. Once that's done, there's one other important point to make on this. Make sure that you lay it out just like this. Make sure it's laying on top of each other. That way you know that the links are appropriately done. And on the end here, we're actually going to originally start it without the nozzle. On the end, you'll see it should be even. Starts back like this, you're gonna have a problem. Same thing if it's further past, you're also gonna have a problem. Once this hose is laid out similar to this, you can then begin to load it in the truck as if it was a flat load.
As I mentioned before, when you begin to load the triple layer hose into the squads, it's going to be laid in there as a normal flat load, just 3 layers. Begin with the back, move your way to the middle, and then you end up at the front and front to the back. The squads are the only ones that are 3 wide. That's why we've elected to go with the triple layer load on this rather than the Minuteman, even though it is the 200-foot sections. You'll notice when they're putting the hose in here, they're doing their due diligence to try to keep the hose as tight as possible without letting it be really loose in there. If the hose becomes really loose, it won't deploy correctly, it won't deploy efficiently, it may come apart and just be a real mess. You'll note here, we really want to make sure that when we're loading the hose, it's not hanging off. A triple load is not designed to do that. So make it nice and even on each end, and it'll look good for you. When you look up in there, you'll be able to see where the nozzle is and be able to pull that section off. While the crew finishes up the hose line here, you will note when you bring the nozzle with that little tail, there's not a long tail on that. It's only a few inches long. This is very helpful in the fact that it gives you something to actually help pull the hose off. Now I will caution you, if it comes out where the tail's a lot longer or a lot shorter than that, the hose will not deploy correctly and you will need to reload it. So we wanted to provide you just kind of a different angle of how to load the hose down below. 2 people up top, 2 people on the side, does a fantastic job. As mentioned in the intro, there's another location where triple layers can be found, and that is on the speedlays of engine 1 and engine 3.
Alright, so the setup for this hose, triple layer, on engine 1 and engine 3 is going to be specific with using the trays. As you can see, we have it laid out similar to the triple layer hose on the squads. One thing you need to make sure that you do is not start the triple lay until after it's out of the bin. If that's inside the bin, you're going to have a problem getting it deployed. It could potentially charge inside the truck. Prior to starting, you want to look and see where your connection is. Connection's close right here. It's on the back, it's not on the far side. So that's going to help you determine exactly which part of the tray you want to start on. So we're going to consider this the back part of the tray here for the truck. So what that means is we're going to have a short tail right here. So once it's in there, you can slap it up like that and then connect it. That's how that should be started. And as you'll see, similar to the other triple layers, laid out nice and flat. It's important that we lay it out just like this before we start implementing it in there and end up just like that. You don't want it again too short, and we don't want it too long, and we don't want to put it on with the nozzle because then you're gonna end up back here. And again, that's too short. You'll have too long of a tail by the time you get done.
Similar to the squads, we're now going to load the hose that's been laid 3 times over top of itself into the tray here, just like it would a flat load. Okay. Now, unlike the squads, you're only going to have room for 2 side-by-side sections in here. So start towards the back, work your way to the front and back, and then you should end up in the front. Now for this, it might be very easy to have 2 people loading the hose here and a 3rd person that's actually keeping the hose on top of itself straight and tight. And you'll notice on this, the tail on this is really short. It's about perfect, as you can see, for the nozzle to be hooked into that. It's not too short, not too long. Nice work. When beginning to load this hose into the tray, it's important to determine exactly where the connection is in the engine. It's always best to have a short tail on here rather than a long tail laying across the top of the hose.